I think this is a wonderful example of what I think is dysfunctional within what we're doing just now. This putting forward of views as if they are the only views possible and without being able to listen to the other side. What we've got here, I think, is a good reason for listening to what the Honourable Wilson Tucker has actually said, supported with the facts that the Honourable Brad Pettit put out there. There are things which can be improved on. I liken this a little bit to the discussion we have in our homes when, with the cost of living going up, the question is, I need to put food on the table or petrol in the car. Where do I direct the funds to right now? And there will come a time, and we see this with the budget coming up, with the difficulties we are facing in every home in Western Australia, well, Australia, is that we're going to have to find a way of making do with less available funds, just the same as the budget for Western Australia. Now, it's true, there's a massive budget we have here, and we can discuss, we can argue, we can even fight about how we're going to disburse those payments. But we need to do that in a way which meets the needs of the people of Western Australia. And what I see here happening is the status quo is being defended. And the status quo is, I put it to you, and I put it in all seriousness, the status quo is our enemy. The status quo is our enemy. We need always to be looking at improvement, because whatever we've got just now can be better. Having an open mind to that would be very important. Now, people are aware of my constant refrain of truth, freedom and growth. Growth here is where we ought to be looking at, well, how can we improve, how can we grow in our society with the available funds? I did want to actually mention cannabis in view to what the Honourable Cal McGuinness said, and yes, that will come up shortly. But as the Minister has spoken, I would put one quibble out there in that pointing across to the opposition and the crossbench and calling us opposition, I found, even with the cheeky smile on your face, I found somewhat trying. But moving on from that. So we need to look, from our point of view, we will look at how we could use this out-of-the-box thinking to help those who are in need. And I'm going to focus on the low-earning part of society. Because here we have funds and we have a population, a very large population, which is doing it tough just now. And we ought to find ways of maximising financial opportunities. Now, I mentioned earlier about the discussion in the family budget, food on the table or petrol in the car. And the question will be raised, we need to actually eat less or travel less, or we need to increase our income. We've all had this conversation. It's part of our daily lives. And when it comes to increasing income, there's only two approaches. One is working harder, and the other is working smarter. Now, I think it's true that working smarter is a better way of increasing our available income than working your backside into the ground and hoping it's going to manage with putting food on the table or petrol in the car. So maximising the financial opportunities without, I would put it to you, increasing the tax burden on government or society. And the other one, the area I'd like to focus on here, is ensuring equality within society, well, equity, we could say, to improve the quality of life for all West Australians. I think we would all agree with this. This is common sense. This is what we are here to do. And without attributing blame to either side, which is completely unfair because all people here are doing their best to serve the people of Western Australia, I take that honour quite seriously, as do we all, I am sure. Now, if you ask any immigrant family what they would like their child to achieve, the general response is going to be an accountant, a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, the standard jobs that you can do. And it's true that we have this idea that there's a special place. Look at my son, the doctor, my mother would like to have said, although she was too proud to say that. Look at my son, the doctor. Or I can say to one of my children, look at my son, the engineer. But we need every single available member of society for us to work together. Because, say, in the hospital environment, I, as a doctor, if I didn't have, let's take the hospital orderly to manage the things in the background, I would not be able to do my job. I depend on these people. They are actually far more important than I am, I would think. Let's put it another way. We all need to work together. We all have an important place in society. We all need to be respected. And the question is, why would I want to give a pittance of an income to people who are doing a very important job? I'm thinking today, for example, of the report in the West Australian about how the police are seeking to impose some industrial action to make their point clear. They have sacrificed over 2 years with COVID, and they have not been rewarded as they feel adequate. Nor have the nurses, nor have the teachers, important people in our society, people we depend on, who need to have their hard work and their integrity remunerated appropriately. How do we afford that? And that's the important question. How do we afford that? Do we work harder or do we work smarter? And I think the Honourable Wilson Tucker has put out the point we ought to be working smarter. And the Honourable Brad Pettit put out, in comparison to, say, Queensland, could we earn more? We certainly could. Why do we not follow that example of another Australian state doing it perhaps better than we are? Could we learn from our colleagues across the other side of the country? So, we have to think outside the box in economic terms. Now, you are all going to know, and Honourable Kyle McGinn, you're going to appreciate this, because I know how I would like to fund this. You know, don't you? We would legalise cannabis, a multi-billion, I can see a multi-billion dollar innovative industry in the cannabis and hemp sphere. I'm looking here at a multi-billion dollar income. For example, in Canada, cannabis-related tax revenue, just cannabis, not hemp, just cannabis, over 3 years, 3 billion Canadian dollars. That's $1 billion a year to spend as you will. I think it would be stupid to look at that and say, we're not going to have that. We need to have an open mind. Shall we look at that more closely? Why not? Would it help our population if we had $1 billion extra in our coffers to help those who need it the most? And we can back up the figures. I can table a paper if you wish. But regardless of that, we need to look at the economic tools in our toolbox, be responsive to that. OK, now I'm not an economist, you all know that, but the Treasurer does have a large, well-staffed department, and I would say let's have a closer look at this. Please, have an open mind. We all need to be working together for the good of the population we represent. Now, if we have good ideas with clear financial support, this is what we need to make these ideals come true. We can't simply, as some people do, put out an idea and then expect it to be funded from an empty coffer. We need to have good financial resources, an idea of what the actual facts are. The money in, the money out, is it actually worth it? We need some fiscal responsibility. And so with that in mind, I would put out that welcome the support. I will be supporting the Honourable Member's motion today. And it's noted here that the crossbench is the only group supporting this motion. I think I'd put it to you, we're the only group looking for innovative solutions, solutions which would allow us to serve those who most need. Thank you for that, Minister. So, looking how we could serve the people of our state most effectively, most efficiently, and, dare I say, with some degree of pleasure.